Hi, this is Pam from Your Nurse Advocate Consulting. I want to welcome you to another Tuesday Tips. This week we have another topic along the lines of family caregiving, and this kind of backs it up a little bit and tries to get everyone to start from the beginning. So how do you have that conversation with your family and with your aging loved ones on putting plans in place? So how do you start those conversations? And the most important thing is having those conversations before a healthcare crisis occurs is so much better than having to have those conversations when emotions are high, when people are frustrated, people have difference of opinions, and it can really turn into a disaster. So it makes it easier for everyone involved if you can have these conversations up front, again, before a health crisis occurs. So again, welcome to Tuesday Tips. We're glad you're here. And let's go ahead and jump in. Just one of the main goals that we have here with Your Nurse Advocate Consulting is to let you know that you are not alone. That's why we are here. We are here to offer our over 80 years. Linda and I have been RNs for over 40 years apiece. So you have 80 years of knowledge navigating the healthcare system, helping hundreds and hundreds of families over those years navigate the healthcare system. And so this time of the year, we focus on bringing families together to put a plan in place to help manage the care of your aging parents. Now, one thing about aging parents is a plan could be in place and things may be going fine, and it takes an instant for a health crisis or a health challenge can occur, and then before you know it, your world is turned upside down and you need different resources. And so it's best to plan for that and to prepare for that. So I know we both know that talking with caregivers, talking about caregiving with your loved ones, with your siblings, with your aging family members is not easy. It can be overwhelming. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's not a great dinner conversation, but it can be one of the most loving things you can do for your family is to step up and get that conversation started. And the thing is once you get it started, then you can add and you can move on and you can, peel back the layers of the onion and get where you need to be. This isn't meant to be an all encompassing, a one and done conversation, because there's so much that goes into that. So that's why we're here. I mean, we're here to offer guidance on how to create a meaningful, productive conversation about caregiving before that crisis occurs. So, like I said, it's not, you as the viewers, it's not about having all the answers, after this video. You're not. The whole point of this Tuesday Tips is to start the conversation and slowly but surely, little bit at a time, peel back the layer of the onions and begin to address all the topics that need to be discussed. Even if it's one topic at a time, I mean, that's starting the process, and just one step in front of the other, one step of the staircase just adds on to those conversations. And I want to spend just a couple of minutes on why it matters. And I think the most important thing is that you want to avoid what we call crisis-based decisions or getting caught off guard. And what I mean by that, say an aging loved one has a health crisis. Maybe they have a heart attack, maybe they have a stroke, maybe they're hospitalized with COVID. I mean, there's one of many, many things that could happen that people aren't expecting. And so what happens is now if the plan isn't in place and we don't know your family's wishes, then the other family members start talking about, okay, well, this is what I would do. Well, this is what I would do. And before you know it, maybe their way, maybe your sibling's way of handling a crisis differs from your way. Your loved one, maybe is not in a position that they can make their wishes known. And so without taking the time to plan and talk about these things, it puts the family in a very precarious situation. And I'm sorry to say, but it's true. These type of situations brings out the worst in anyone because we're scared, we're nervous, we're frustrated, we're worried. And so all those emotions do not make for good decisions. So if you can have these decisions in place before a health crisis occurs, the better you're going to be at. The whole family is going to be better equipped to manage those challenges that come and those decisions that need to be made. The benefits of early planning, there are many. A couple I can think of right off the bat is the emotional benefits. We talked about that. We strengthen the family unity, we reduce guilt, we reduce misunderstandings when we have a plan in place. Also, there's some financial benefits, such as, time to explore budgeting or resources, knowing what their insurance or their Medicare Advantage plan or their Medicare plan or their supplement plan, what does it pay for? Does anybody know the limitations or the co-pays? To be prepared financially and know that, so that you can be prepared when a health crisis occurs, or if they need to go into a nursing home after a hospital stay before they can go home, or if they have to go to assisted living. How are those things paid for? What's your parents' finances? And those conversations need to begin. The last thing that I just want to mention about why it matters is just the logistical benefits of just setting clear roles. I mean, not every family member is cut out to be a hands-on caregiver. And what I mean by that is not every person in your family may be comfortable taking mom or dad to the bathroom, washing them up, helping them get dressed. And so it's important to set realistic expectations with your family and know your family members, know your siblings, what they're capable of doing, what we call zone of geniuses is, so how they can help. And you have to understand that not everybody's cut out to do all the same things, and we have to respect those differences and find ways for everybody to be able to contribute in the way that is most comfortable for them. One of the things that I want to share, we've talked a little bit about the difference between Linda's family and my family. How a family as Linda's family was unplanned. There was no documents in place. There's a lot of family tension, people arguing, people disagreeing. It's been a challenge, and the challenge still goes on for Linda now. In my family, there's 6 in Linda's family. There's 5 in my family. We have an aging mom. She's 85. That, as years go on, we're having to assume more and more care. But we've assigned roles. We have a way of communication with us. If one person does something with mom, lets everybody else know what's going on, so that everybody's in the loop. So communication is a huge part of the process of keeping everybody together and on the same page. So let's spend a couple of minutes on, just how do you start the conversation? That's what we talked about, that this Tuesday Tips was going to help you. Again, choose the right time and setting. You know your parents and your siblings better than us. So you have to be able to know when maybe the right time and place is. If your parents are going to be reluctant to talk about it, then be honest and upfront with them. Maybe a sibling that has a good relationship with them that they'll listen to may say, you know what, mom and dad, you're getting older. We want to make sure that we're ready to help you, manage your golden years. And if any healthcare challenges come up, we want to be able to handle them in the way that you would want them handled. And I know these aren't pleasant conversations, and I know these are conversations that we don't want to have, but we want to make sure that there's no arguments among us, that we all agree on how you should be treated. And the way we can do that is for you to help us and tell us what you want. And so maybe you start out with your parents, and then, if you can talk to them and try and get some ideas on how they feel about end of life care. How do they feel about advanced directives? Do they want CPR? How do they feel about, the house, their finances? What are the dispositions? Do they want to go into a nursing home? Would they consider assisted living if they could no longer stay at home? These are the kind of conversations that you need to have. And now, again, they don't all have to be had in one setting, but just tackle these issues, a little bit at a time. So start small, framing the conversations as ongoing. Say, well, we're going to talk about this time, and next time when we talk about this, this is what we're going to talk about. So break it into little pieces. So four different areas that we need to have the discussion on. So four topics, so to speak, that can be broken down into smaller, bite-sized pieces. And that's financial planning. We touched a little bit about that. What resources are available? Does your parent have a will? Do they have life insurance? Do they have long-term care insurance? Are there savings set aside? What if they could not stay at home any longer? How would they pay for assisted living? What if they had to stay long-term in a nursing home? If they don't have much resources, what can we do to work with your Aging and Disability Resource Center or your aging center that every county has? What can we do to get them the resources they need to figure that question out? How would we pay for long-term care? What are the medical preferences? We talked about healthcare choices, a living will. Do they want CPR? It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Maybe they don't want CPR, but they would want medications or what we call a chemical code, a partial code. Maybe they're willing to go on a ventilator. Maybe they're not willing to have a tube put down and have them on a breathing machine. These are all things that need to be discussed. This is one of the ways too, as nurse advocates, we can help you and explain those choices with you and your aging loved ones so that they understand what those choices mean and help them be able to make an informed decision. Are there specific doctors that treatments? I mean, in a health crisis, if you don't know their clinic or who their insurance covers, they may end up being treated at a place that's not covered under their insurance because no one was aware. And then they're going to get this big bill because maybe they're out of network. So really have to, break it down into these four categories and then dig a little deeper into all of these. We talked about the living arrangements, discussed possibilities. Is there a sibling or a family member that would take an aging parent in? Or is it we're looking at possibly assisted living or worst case scenario, if they need a lot of care, maybe the possibility of a nursing home. So these things need to be talked about. And then we talked also briefly about roles and responsibility. So talk, openly with your family. Once you get permission from your parents and you kind of get the ball rolling, say, hey, I'd love to talk to my brothers and sisters. We got to figure out who can do what, who can help, and things like that. So we want to emphasize teamwork, fairness, even with out-of-town siblings. We've done several things on out-of-town siblings, and we're not going to talk about that tonight, but just knowing that there are a lot of things that out-of-town family members can do and can contribute to the care. We want to touch base a little bit on handling resistance. When families come together to care for aging parents, it can be a really an amazing thing. It can be a beautiful thing. And Mavis, thanks for the thumbs up on that. We're glad that you're here. But not all conversations go well. We gave you two examples. Here you have two nurse advocates and their families. You have one of each, one that goes well and one that is really rocky. So not all families can work together well, but the goal is to, if you plan ahead and explore all their feelings and get things out and have your parents make their choices, it can help alleviate a lot of pressure. Because if all the decisions are made by your aging parents, then the only decisions the siblings have to come to is to follow mom and dad's wishes. Whether or not they agree with them, it becomes irrelevant, because we just need to follow what your mom and dad want. So acknowledge someone's discomfort. One of the challenges with Linda's family is that she had a family member that didn't believe in hospice. They believed that hospice was for the last couple of days of care. There was no other option, and didn't realize all the benefits that hospice can have, longer term, managing symptoms. A lot of people on hospice get better because their symptoms are so well managed and they're getting a lot more care. So sometimes education has to be shared but you have to explore their feelings. Why do they feel that way? Why do they not agree? Or why do they want it this way? Just everybody has a right and is entitled to their own opinion. So, let everyone share that equally. And again, if your parents make their own decisions, then eventually it just comes down to agreeing on what mom and dad want. And, it's normal to have differing opinions. I can't tell you, even my family, where things are going fine, there's 5 people I can tell you that on any given occasion you could have 5 different opinions on something. But our family is one that we talk it out, we talk it through, and it's, until we come to an agreement. And that's just the way we are. We just hash it out. And because we don't like to be in discord with each other. And I think that's one thing with our families. We don't like to argue with each other. And not to say that we don't, but we don't like it. And so we're very eager to get to some kind of a resolution. And, aging parents, they don't want to have these conversations. They might be resistant because having these conversations needs to remind them that they are losing their independence, or they fear losing their independence. While siblings might not want to talk about the topic because they're in denial, or they feel guilty, they don't want to talk about mom and dad getting to the point where they need care. So there can be resistance on both sides. And just, be patient, validate their feelings. I understand. You can reply saying something like, I understand that it's hard to talk about, but I want us all to have peace of mind knowing that we have a plan in place. And compromise and try and be empathetic. Empathetic means that you can put yourself in their shoes and look at it from their point of view. Stress, we want to meet people where they're at, both emotionally, and then if frustrations occur, maybe it's just time to table it. A lot of people react out of emotion, but if you give them some time without pressing them, that they can just process it and think through it, a few days later, they may come back, with a different view because they've been able to process the information, and they don't feel that there's so much pressure on them to make a decision. So the next steps would be, just we talked about the 4 different areas, and I'll go over them again. Just if you wanted to make a note of that, we want to make sure that we're talking about financial planning, medical preferences, living arrangements, and roles and responsibilities of family members. Those are the big 4 areas that you want to start discussions about. And then plan follow-ups. I mean, we've shared many times, we've got, if you go to yournurseadvocateconsulting.com and go to free resources, we've got all kinds of free resources for you. One of them is like a family meeting agenda template that can walk you through having these meetings, what to talk about, how to stay on task. We have that free template for you. We have so many free resources that you can access. And if you want a little bit more help, you can get a free 30-minute consultation with us. We'd be happy to look at your unique situation. And whether you use our services or not, we are going to give you at least 2 or 3 action items that you can take away and take action on right away. That's going to help you move your situation forward. So, and explore resources. The Aging and Disability Resource Center, the Center of the Aging, whatever your county government agency is on aging, is a great resource for what's going on in your local community as far as resources, support groups, legal help, help with choosing a Medicare Advantage plan, all those types of things that are available. So just, in conclusion, we just want to say, that having conversations early matters. We want to deal with conflicts with empathy and patience. And we want to remind everyone that it's about progress. It's not, Rome, the old cliche, Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, you're not going to iron out everything that needs to be ironed out in one conversation. That'd be very overwhelming for everyone. So just break it down into bite-sized pieces and just, we're looking for progress, not perfection. So just take a little bit at a time. And, and every little step you take to plan ahead makes a big difference for your family. And so we know you've got this. We're here for any kind of support that you have. So, schedule your first caregiving meeting with your family. Talk to your mom and dad. Say, hey, we want the best for you. We want to be able to support you. So can we, start having just some little conversations now and then about how you want your golden years to play out. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to end this Tuesday Tips for tonight. And we will see you next week for another Tuesday Tips. Take care.